life, and I know about all the horrible, horrible things that took place there. But I lived with a bunch or a group of women who did not know God. They never had an experience with God. I never knew a priest that come into the convent that ever had an experience with God. He was an ordained Roman Catholic priest, but he had sin in his life. And there was sin in the convent. But I'm on the outside now, and I'm dealing with a lot of things, even some of our boys and girls, some of our men and women, some of our grandparents who have walked out in the world, so to speak, and shut the door in God's face, and they're just doing everything they're big enough to do. It's nothing in this day to see a little girl, 14, 15, on up to 20, give birth to an illegitimate baby and cut his little arms and legs and head off, wrap it up in a piece of dirty newspaper and put it in a waste can. That's just a common thing today. You can't feature. That little girl has a good mind. She's not insane, but she's doing it. We have young boys that are shooting their mothers and fathers, killing them in cold blood. They have good minds, but they're doing it today. And many of these have heard the gospel of Jesus Christ, and many of them have known God one day. And they too shut the door in God's face. You know, when I think about all of these things, it does something to me. I have a testimony, and I don't want to take too much time, but I wish I could preach almost instead of giving this testimony. But I'm going to take how many of you know about the convents? I think most of you do. The convents in Old Mexico. Few of you do, because some of you I know have heard me. I'm just going to take, not any more than 15, 20 minutes, I'm going to tell you. There is not one cloistered convent in Old Mexico, the country of Old Mexico. The government has opened every cloistered convent, every nun has been taken out. What for? Because of the corruption behind those walls. And it all come about in 1934 on the 18th day of May. A little nun in this particular cloister. Now, the cloistered convents belong to the government over there. They are public museums, so to speak. And by the way, they are just like they were when they opened the convents and took the nuns out, and nobody can bother anything in there. They belong to the government. There are thousands, tens of thousands of tourists that go through there every year. They're open all year round. You can go through them. You can see. You can touch with your own hands. You'll see things that'll chill every ounce of blood in your veins. You'll see things that even though you're looking at it, you won't believe it. It'll be hard for your finite mind to grasp such horrible things that have gone on under the cloak of religion. All right, now there are public museums. We have 32 ministers, our ministers I know personally, who have gone through these convents. And all the folk, they've written me letters, and they've brought back so much to tell me, I just don't want to hear about it. I know too much as it is, and I wish I could forget everything I know. If the Lord would let me, I'd like for Him to pull a curtain down in my mind and let me forget 24 years and 8 months. I tell you, you just wish you could forget it all. So I'm going to take you over to Old Mexico for just a moment, just a few moments. All right, and now, this little nun in the cloister, the one convent I'm particularly interested in, it's the biggest one there. It's called the Desert of Lyons, Lyons. And it is the largest one there, and you don't have any trouble going over to Old Mexico. Most of the people speak English over there, so you could ask anywhere about it, where they are and how to get to them and so on and so forth. They don't cost you very much. And it's after you get over there. And this little nun got a note out to an old wood chopper, a Roman Catholic man who took care of the yards of the convent. And in that note, she told him about some of the horrible things that were going on in this particular convent, and asked him to take the note to the president of Old Mexico. And that the old woodchopper took the note to the president of Old Mexico and gave it to him. All right, that man read that note. And I'm sure that he did not know what was going on in the convent, and he, of course, was a Roman Catholic, but he did not know what's going on in the convent. Oh, I have so many people come along and say, oh, I know all about the convent, and I don't believe your testimony. It's immaterial to me whether you believe it or not. Some of you don't even believe Jesus went to Calvary for you. Some don't even believe Jesus died for you. Oh, it's tragic when you even think about it. All right. I know where I stand in the presence of God, and I know I have to give an account of God. You don't need to think that I'm going to lose my life to tell you something that's not true. No. I'm going to spend eternity with my lovely Jesus. I can assure you that. All right. The president read that note, and because he stirred him so terribly, He was a man with a lot of wisdom, and he waited for numbers of weeks. And then one day he called together the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church for a banquet dinner. 300 prelates, bishops, and priests come to that banquet dinner. And as they gathered in that massive place, and as they gathered around those banquet tables, when the meal was over, the president stood to his feet, and he read the note to those bishops and priests. And he said, "Men, we are going into this cloistered convent." And those fellows pulled themselves up fully and said, "Oh no, we can't go. That is a religious order for women only." They've been hiding behind that for at least 500 years, and they're still trying to hide behind it. Oh, priests are in the convent all the time, but they try to keep it away from the laity of the Roman Catholic Church. These things they don't let you know. All right, so he told them 3 times, and 3 times they said, "We can't do it." And he knew they wouldn't do it anyway in the beginning. But you know, he was prepared for the occasion. He had a militia on the outside of that building. That militia was brought in. And may I say to this congregation, a number of priests were slaughtered, and the president got in the way of a bullet, and he died too. It was a very terrible thing to happen. But the law took it in hands then, and the law put 2 men down in what we call the speak room of this cloister, the Desert of Lions. When you go to any cloistered convent, that front door is unlocked, but you better know what you're walking in that speak room for. I'm warning you. Just go ahead and go in there one time, and if you don't get the thrill of your life, a thrill that you don't get out in the world, it's serious. All right, so those 2 men, officials of the law, they come into this speak room, and it's a very large room. And you come up near the front, and you'll find a black braille across here. It's a black iron gate, clear across, heavy folds of black material. All right, those men were 2 weeks right there. They were not allowed to go home to eat, neither could they go home to sleep. Food was brought to those men. Those men are trying to find a way out of that speak room into the convent. And they're built so subtle and so clever that it really will take a detective to find the way. And you know, it all come about one day. Those men found a way to get into the Mother Superior's room. And let me tell you, folks, when they got into the Mother Superior's room, it was really a tragic thing. Her bedroom, sitting room, 2 lovely rooms. Everything is nice, and it's just as it was the day that they closed the convents in 34. All right, now, these guides are going to take you through when you go there. There'll be Roman Catholic and Christian guides to take you through. Write down all of your questions, because you'll be so scared you'll forget everything that you want to ask. And just write down a lot of questions, and they must answer your questions. And the first place they're going to take you, when they come into the convent, will be in the kitchen. There you'll see the pots and the pans and the stove, and how the little nuns cook, and the type of pans they use, and so on and so forth. And when they leave there, then they're going to take you on down into the cells. And you know what I want every one of you to do that would take that vacation over there? I want you to lay down on that slab of wood, no mattress, no springs, no pillow, 1 blanket, and see how you'd like to sleep there the rest of your life. I want you to lie down on it. Then I want you to get off of that slab of wood and kneel down on that prayer board I told you about last night that has the sharp wires coming through. We kneel there and pray every day of our lives for a lost humanity. We are taught to believe it makes us holier and draws us closer to God. You kneel down on it, but do it graciously, because it'll penetrate the flesh on your knees. And see how long some of you Pentecostal people will pray kneeling on that board. All right, it'll be good for you to see. And then, you know, when those men got into the Mother Superior's room, they took out every stick of furniture there was in there. She had carpet on the floor. They took out the carpets. They moved everything out. In her bedroom, you will see there was then, and there still is, a bathtub. It was not even hooked up. She had a wood box, because she had a fireplace, and the wood box is about this much higher than this and about this much wider, and it was filled with wood, and there was testers on that wood box because she could roll it around. All right, when those men took all the furniture out, the bed, everything, the rug off of the floor, and then they went over there to take this wood box out, when they wheeled it out, automatically, they don't know what they touched, but they did touch something, and that opened a place about this big around in the floor where the wood box was sitting. Let those men go one story down under the ground. This is up on first floor. This is the route that you're going when you go over to the convent in Old Mexico to go through them. This is the very route that you're going to go. And you know, when you go down those cement steps, this one story down, I'm going to tell you exactly, I haven't even mentioned it to you, what you're going to see. You're going to see a room much larger than this, and you're going to see there is a large cement hole, possibly 6, 8, or 10 feet deep, and it's just made in a hole, but massive thing. There's a path walking around it like that, and the guard will take you. Sometimes there's 100, 200, 300 people going through at the same time, and you follow your guide. All right. As you walk around there, you're going to look, of course, down in this hole. That's what you're going there for. And there you're going to see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of baby skulls and baby's bones. How did they get in there? I don't have time to give it all. I'm just giving you a few highlights. This you can go and see. This you can touch with your own hands, and then maybe it'll make a believer out of you. The testimony won't be so fantastic when you see things with your own eyes and touch with your own hands. All right, folks, this is a terrible thing. And now they're going to take you back to several rooms. And I told you just a few highlights is all I have time to give you. But when you go into this one room, and of course I will call this, well, we in the convent call it the death march. But you will not understand that, and I can't get into it too deep. It takes too long, and I have a testimony. As you walk into this particular room, after a little nun has lived in a cloistered convent so long, we're heartsick, homesick, our bodies are broken, our minds sometimes are almost broken. And I tell you, we don't have any love left in us, and we have bitterness and hate in our hearts. And God became a myth, prayer became a myth, we don't believe in anything, we lost faith in humanity. That's a terrible state of affairs to be in. And when that little nun gets almost to the end of her rope sometimes, she may go to the Mother Superior and say, Mother Superior. She tells her how she feels. She pours her heart out completely to the Mother Superior. The Mother Superior is going to send her in this room that I'm going to tell you about right now. Now you're going in there and you're going to be all alone. And when you go in there first, you see here a life-size statue of the Virgin Mary. You prostrate yourself at her feet, and you tell the Virgin Mary what you told me. And then when you finish talking to the Virgin Mary, you get up and come over here to the feet of Jesus and tell Jesus what you told the Virgin Mary and told the Mother Superior. Then she told that little nun to get up and walk just so far. And that little nun does walk so far. And there she's going to wait a little while. All right. Usually these days come along about the 40 days of Lent. And always one little nun out of all of the nuns in the convent, there's always one, that's willing to give their life for the faith. They've never heard the gospel. They've never had an experience with God. They don't have the Holy Ghost. They know nothing about water baptism. And you and I, sometimes we fail to walk with God and talk with God, and we have everything, and God's so good to us and so mindful of us. And here's a little nun willing to give her life for the faith. And you know, right about here, you'll see the casket. Over there, they'll call them possibly fiberglass. In the country I was in, they were glass. But in Old Mexico, I think they'll call them fiberglass. All right? You'll see that casket. And on this morning, after she's talked to the Virgin Mary and the statue of Jesus, she's going to walk right out about there and wait a little while. And then, you know, other little sisters are coming in, and there'll always be some priest there. And you know what you're going to see? You're going to see all of a sudden a little nun. She'll start from back there. She knows all about this casket, and she knows what's going